Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of Recruit Military Live, where we will be discussing how to unlock your earning potential by matching your salary skill level. If you're waiting on us this morning, we do apologize. A bit of some technical difficulties, but we made it. We're here. We adapted and we overcame, and we are excited to get started. Before we do, please drop a comment below and let us know where you're joining us from. And as always, if you do have any questions during the session pertaining to our topic, please feel free to ask at any time. Joining me today, as always, from the great state of Texas is my amazing co-host, Raul Torres. How's it going, Raul?
Good, Gabby. Excited about today's guest. Been working with this specific person on hand, on the ground at our DAV Recruit Military in-person events. Without further ado, I'll introduce him. So our guest for today is an esteemed Assistant National Employment Director at DAV. He's also a U.S. Navy and U.S. Army vet with over 25 years in communication services. He excels in hiring, training, and regulatory knowledge, skillfully reducing costs while enhancing service quality. His adaptability and strategic sales acumen have driven his success in both the legal and sales sectors. His military expertise further solidifies his capability as a dynamic leader and committed team player. Please join us in giving us a warm welcome to Lamarr Couser. Welcome to the show, Lamarr. How we doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited. We've been working again on the ground. I think you've met Gabby and I in person, so it's fantastic having you on today.
It's a pleasure to be with everybody.
Yeah, if you want to give us just a little bit of more of your backstory into who you are and what you do in your work with DAV.
Sure. I'm an assistant employment director. I visit. I just assist veterans with employment and making sure that they're transitioning. They have a little bit of a support group with it.
Fantastic. And we're very excited to get your input and insight on our topic for today, which is matching your skill set to a salary. I know for a lot of veterans or transitioning military members, even military spouses, we are trained for so long to have mission first and team first, right? There's no I in team. And so when it comes time for transitioning, we have to flip that aspect. You now have to make it about you, and you have to advocate for yourself. And especially when it comes to that salary for however long, whether it's 4 years, 10, 15, 20, or even more, you don't have a choice really in what you, besides getting promoted, and what you earn in the military. What you get is what you get, and you don't throw a fit. But then when it comes to exiting and working within the civilian sector, you do have more leeway to advocate for yourself, saying, I've done this for this amount of years in this, career field. I have these certificates, these qualifications. I believe I'm worth this. And that's something I feel that is very hard and difficult for any veteran, any military community member to really do, to advocate for yourself and say, I'm worth this. This is what I deserve. Because for so long, we weren't able to do that. So I'm really excited to get into this topic today and hopefully help out any veterans and military community members that are experiencing that.
Yeah, I agree. I can remember, was it 2004 when I transitioned out of the Navy after 12 years. I was in the food service industry, so I was a cook in the Navy. And, after 12 years of cooking, I kind of like, well, do I really want to go back into food service? So it was really a challenge for me because, transitioning, you're looking for a job, but you're not trying to do the same job that you did in the military. So that's where, selling yourself on some of those hard and soft skills are going to be important to highlight, especially when you're trying to change career paths.
Exactly. And, that's a good point that you brought up, because for some people like myself and even Raul, we kind of stayed within the sector of what we did in the military for, 4 to 10 years. I absolutely love public affairs and marketing. I stayed in there. And so I had that long amount of experience to put on that resume. But for someone who's wanting to enter into a different career field, that's a whole other ball game in itself. So that kind of, goes perfectly into our first point for today, is that first point in advocating for yourself and managing your expectations when it comes to what to expect for that salary is creating that resume. And when you're beginning to create that resume, one of the first steps you need to do is reflect. Reflect on what you just mentioned, those hard and soft skills, tangible and intangible things that you do bring to the table.
You're absolutely right. Always practice the KISS method. And I think everybody knows what the KISS method is. It's keep it simple, stupid. So, join the military, whether it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Force, you can kind of go back to the simple parts of service, which is really going back to the mission statement or just what your core values were and build on that.
Yeah. And I do have to say, as far as like translating those hard, soft human skills, whatever it is that you want to call them, man, I got to say, at our job fairs, as you know, Lamarr, because you're there alongside us at these events, the conversation being had between a job seeker that's coming in, whether they're transitioning out or maybe they've already transitioned out, they're a veteran, but the people they're talking to that are there, the representatives, are veterans themselves. And some of them have been job seekers who've been on the other end of that job fair at some point. And I had to throw that in there because it's so hard to translate those skills that it just makes sense, specifically at places like that where you can talk to veterans, specifically about getting a job. Like if you have that opportunity, you should 100% take advantage of that. And that kind of goes into the next segment here, which would be, okay, you're transitioning out and maybe you don't have that experience. Like Gabby and I stayed within the same career field. You don't want to do, what you did in the military. Now you're transitioning out. What do you do? Where do you start outside of like building a resume? Like, who do you talk to? So it's really about doing that research and just narrowing down, first of all, what career field and position you're looking to do. But then, like, where do you take it from there? Once you know what to do, like, who do you talk to? Do you talk to veterans in that space? Things like informational interviews are probably something that you want to take a look into. So I just wanted to toss that over to you, Lamarr. Like, what do you think about once you figured out what exactly you want to do? How do you research on your own, and who do you reach out to, as you're transitioning into this new field?
Yeah, for me, if I see something that I want to do, either I'll volunteer in that space or I'll do a lot of research. The research part for me is fun because, I start kind of at the company level, whether you're attending a job fair that we have, you look at all the businesses that are listed on the website, you can do a background check on them and kind of find out, what's their mission statement, what's their core values, how are they are viewed internally, externally in the community. When I was going to school, finishing my degree, one of the companies that I had to do a background check was a staple company that did a lot of candies and food. But I realized that their portfolio was a lot larger than just candy. But then when I went to the About Us section, I was surprised to see that they really cared about the environment. They really cared about diversity and inclusion. They really cared about the planet. So, if you're the type of person that wants to be around a company that really wants to make a difference in the world other than selling a product, that's one of the companies that you look to be a part of. The other thing is a lot of service members who transition really want to get back into some sort of, not really nonprofit, but just a corporation that's really connected to the military community. And you can look at a business that actually has an ERG group that really makes a difference and impact internally because there's a support group there of veterans that are really going to mentor you and support you in your endeavors.
Yeah, that's some great pieces of advice, because I think that's something we've mentioned on a few of our lives before is, we're automatically thinking of the paycheck at the end of the day, but there's so much more that comes with the salary. There's the benefits. Is this organization something that you can see yourself belonging in and growing within? Is there room for growth? Do they have the same morals and mission statement that aligns with you and where you see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years? So that's a great piece of advice. And I feel like not a lot of, when it comes to especially having an idea of what that salary may be getting out, is a lot of people may not be aware of the resources that are literally just within their network. We're thinking about who can we speak to when it comes to speak about this. There's anyone that you, especially within your own career field, anyone within your network that has gotten out of the military that you're still in contact with, reach out to them. Your LinkedIn network, they're there for a reason. They're not just, accepted, connection on a social media platform. They're there for a reason. These resources that you see yourself in every day. Reach out, actually utilize them, and ask those questions. And I think, Raul, you made a great point as well. I did this with myself, I think about 12 or 9 months before I got out of the Marine Corps. When I was stationed on Camp Lejeune, they held job fairs on base. And even though I wasn't, getting out within the next year, I at least went in just to see what type of positions were out there, kind of like what we would consider like an informational interview, but in such a broad spectrum and with really no idea of no expectations, really, simply there to network, to get information. If you aren't getting out right away, attending a job fair doesn't mean you're there to do an interview. It doesn't always have to be such high stakes and high pressure. Go there, get contacts, get an idea of what that organization is like, speak to those representatives in person. I was deeply considering, especially because I stayed in the North Carolina area, I spoke to almost everyone there. And I passed a Waffle House representative, and I never saw myself working at a Waffle House, given I have eaten there many a times after an outing with my friends, especially in the Camp Lejeune area. Waffle House and I are like this, but I never considered myself working there. But they have a great program. Their starting pay is wonderful. I always saw myself, in kind of that leader aspect, especially because I was a staff NCO at the time. And they're always hiring for managers, and you actually can move up the ladder fairly quick. And they have locations coast to coast. So my options, for where I could go were, so it was a great option, but it was something I never would have considered if I didn't go to that job fair. So I think, Raul, you made a great point, especially our job fairs where all of our employers that are attending are military friendly. They're there specifically to hire veterans, military spouses, dependents, retirees. So that's a great point when it comes to utilizing your resources, and especially gaining that aspect on what to expect from a salary exiting the military.
Yeah, that's a great point. In one of the job fairs that I was at, I was pleasantly surprised with the networking that I did with employers, because, one of the things that I specifically can remember is one of the recent events that we did at MacDill Air Force Base, where, the base is not really known for like security and police, but there was some sheriffs there in uniform, and a lot of folks were bypassing that booth because they was like, well, I don't want to be in patrol. And then there was a military spouse. I said, you need to go over there and talk to them, because they're actually hiring people that have a lot of computer customer service experience because of the AI and just those remote cameras and things that they got to use to help detectives. They need real technicians that are going to be able to implement that technology. They were also hiring for mechanics, because they have a fleet of vehicles that you maintain. So you never know. That unknown employer is also important, just to network with, because it's not just the appearance of a uniform that you really need to be concerned about. It's networking and understanding that there's other opportunities within that company.
Precisely. And having those conversations, especially with the representatives from that employer in person, can make a world of difference, because you can ask those questions, especially when it comes to the skill sets that you possess and the qualifications, the certs, the training. Like, hey, like I have A, B, and C. Is there anything else that your organization would look for when hiring a candidate that would put me above? Your military experience is already going to set you apart. but is there anything else, any other training, any other certs that I would need to have that would make you consider me over, John Doe? And that's, like I said, these are like almost informational interviews right there on the spot in such a mass variety right there in front of you. So these job fairs are just gold mines for you.
Yeah. And I just want to add, like, don't wait till the job fair. If you want to get more out of it and you actually are like really pushing for interviews, once you do that research, look at your LinkedIn network. And if you don't find anyone that's within that career field, this is something that I did on LinkedIn. I would just look up a company where I saw a promising like job listing, and I would look at that company. I would look at my like area. I was in Maryland at the time, and see if there were any veterans in the area that worked for that company. And I would shoot out, cold messages in hopes of informational interviews, and some of them stuck. And I actually got either a Zoom interview. I think I got like one in-person interview. We were still in the middle of COVID. But make sure you use your network. And if you don't have anyone in your immediate circle, reach out to veterans that work for companies that you're interested in. Ask all those culture questions that Lamarr was alluding to earlier. You want to make sure you know the company. So by the time you get to that job fair, you have specific questions in mind, and that makes you look like a better candidate because you came in well prepared. So make sure to do your research 100%.
Yeah, and I didn't know this before I transitioned, but I believe it still exists. LinkedIn, especially when you're transitioning and you're a veteran, I believe you can get a professional account for free for a year.
Yeah,
premium account.
Yeah, so you can get the premium account. You'd be looking maybe 6 months out. Register for a professional account, a premium account, and you can do a lot more research and networking that way. And then they also have LinkedIn Learning that you can use. That can also help you with some of those transitional things that you need assistance with, whether it's conducting an interview or things of that nature, because that can be intimidating itself.
Yeah, and I know it's been oh gosh, almost 5 years. Holy smokes! Oh my gosh, it's been almost 5 years since I've exited. I know it's been a bit less for yourself, Raul, I believe. But I know, a lot probably has changed within those 4 to 5 years. So if there are any questions that, our audience members may have, especially, we may not know everything right now, given the state of constant change, but we're definitely here to help. And I think that's something that a lot of people are struggling with, is that there is constant change, especially reaching out to veterans that you served with, be like, hey, do you know about A, B, and C? And they're like, oh, well, this is the last time I checked, it was this, but I would still do your own research. That's why it is, as you guys mentioned, so important to do that, to continue branching out in your network. Like Raul was saying, reach out, do your research on LinkedIn, look up the organization, look for veterans. I promise you, veterans would never be, swayed to, they're always going to be here to help out. One thing about the military community is that we are eager to stay connected to other veterans and other military. We love seeing, I see, a red hatter out in Walmart, and I'm like, oh, Semper Fi Devil. And then we sit there and have a 15-minute conversation next to the shampoos. So we're eager to consistently and constantly help our fellow veterans and community members. So, and that goes into kind of our last little wicket here is, depending on where you are within your military career, whether you're getting out after just one enlistment of 4 years or 10, 15, 20 years, what you're making at that point in your career may not be what you would make in the position that you would now be entering into the civilian sector. I know, especially depending on your qualifications, that you could be, an E4 getting out of the military and still be making a happy penny, depending on what your position was in the military. So I think it's very vital to go into that job search journey managing your expectations, having a clear, thought of what it is you should be expecting. And that goes, into why we're pressing so hard on doing your research and speaking to your network.
Yeah. That's so true. Transitioning, depending on whether you did 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, or you did a career, you've been in different levels of management, whether you were running a squad, running a platoon, running a whole battalion. So you're trying to match that expectations with your civilian expectations, whether you're going to be a supervisor, a CEO, a vice president. So a lot of that really depends on, your resume, what your interview is, your experience, your post education, and what you know about the company. I would say, if you're looking for, a real salary where you're making a potential six-figure salary, it's a lot more than just your skills. Your experience is also important because a lot of times what you find is a lot of that experience doesn't really translate over to the civilian sector unless you really do a good job on your resume, or you did a great job of getting a lot of certifications that are needed that the civilian sector recognizes.
Yeah, I do have to say, I had to manage my expectations. I was still transitioning out, and I was like, man, what really makes me happy? Sports, right? And I was trying to break into like the sports industry, still trying to do like PR, marketing, still in that bubble. And man, when I did informational interviews with individuals that were like actually in sports, like in leagues, directly with teams, working with agencies, obviously those three things are, they kind of sound the same, but they all have like separate salary expectations. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I want to work for, Major League Baseball or the NBA or whatever. And then talking to actual veterans or maybe just individuals in my network that worked for these teams or worked with these leagues previously, they're like, man, breaking into that field without experience in just sports in general, you're looking at a pretty low salary. And, I had to manage my expectations and kind of keep doing my research, keep looking around. But it's not always a bad thing, right? Because I did find like, hey, maybe the leagues and teams, you don't make as much starting out in the marketing field. But if you look at agencies that are kind of third parties that work with these individual teams or work with these individual leagues, maybe that's an avenue you want to take. But obviously, I landed here at RecruitMilitary, very happy to do what I'm doing and still in the marketing field. But it does go without saying, Gabby and Lamarr, that's the big thing. You're getting out. Maybe you have a lot of experience, or maybe you're just a 4-year corporal that got out, trying to figure out the world in the civilian sector. Make sure to manage your expectations, do your research, do your due diligence.
I agree. Due diligence is important. One of the things that wasn't really promoted during my transition was skill bridge. While you're still in the military, there's an opportunity for you to take some quality time off of unit assignment duty and all the other things to really go into the civilian sector and work for an employer to kind of see what that civilian employment is, to kind of test the waters, if you will, and try to build an understanding of what culture is, understanding what their expectations are. I think that's underutilized a lot, but you should definitely look into whether or not your commander, your unit, offers a DoD skill bridge so that you can take advantage of that while you're still active.
Yeah, that's definitely one sure way to be up to date with the current industry standards of what it is you're looking for. Because I think, Raul, you mentioned as well, you could, whatever your time in service is and whatever your credentials may be, it still may not be up to par with what, especially with nowadays with technology just constantly advancing and new programs being, instituted into organizations. you may be doing everything that you feel is up to date within the realm of the military, but the civilian sector may be light years ahead. So doing your research, and then also if you have the opportunity to do a skill bridge program, you're there in the weeds with that organization, with whatever programs they're doing in current time, and getting that real time experience. So you hit it right, the nail right on the head, Lamarr. If you have the opportunity to do a skill bridge program and your command is willing as well, that's something we are always advocating for.
Yeah, and go ahead, Lamarr.
Oh yeah, just witnessing I guess we're coming on the other side of it, COVID, but the transitioning service member for the last 4 years had to deal with another competitor, which was AI. AI just took over a lot of and replaced a lot of folks in the workforce. That's why right now, even when you put in a resume, AI is sifting through that, looking for keywords and things like that. Skills is going to help an employer stay competitive and stay up to date on what's happening in real time. That's the data that you can't get from AI. So it's really important to highlight those skills.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add, Gabby and Lamarr, going off of SkillBridge. If you're interested in SkillBridge, we actually offer SkillBridge opportunities in-house. We were strictly at one point just recruiting, but now we've branched out in-house with like tech, and we even have some interns on the marketing team. But we're also we've opened it up to companies we're working with as well, being just kind of the third-party facilitator for them. If you're interested, recruitmilitary.com, we got you covered there too.
Yes, sir. Well, so, just circling back on everything, when it comes to getting out of the military, salary is making money is, always one of the first things, whether it's just you or a family that you have to take care of. Finances are always going to be at the forefront of your mind. So when making that transition, when having that salary in mind, it's important to first reflect on everything that you bring to the table. Really make the mission you now, because it's about you and your family. What you bring to the table, what certs you have, what qualifications, what sets you apart. It is all about me. After that, do your research, look into the organizations, look into the industry, the career field, whether you're staying in the same career field or, venturing into something new. Do your research. We cannot talk about that enough. Branch out to your network, speak to who you have currently in your network, and make more connections along the way. And lastly, continue to manage those expectations. What you bring to the table may be worth a lot more outside of the military, or maybe at a different standard than what you're expecting. Is there anything else, Lamarr or Raul, you feel that we missed, or that any other nuggets of knowledge we have for our audience?
No, I think we hit it on the head. The reality is, you value yourself, you value your service. There's employers out here that understands what the military community provides to an employer. We do a great job at making sure that those employers are present at our hiring events. And like I said, if you attend one of those events, you can understand that they've made a business plan to hire the best, and that's you.
Yeah, I think we covered it all. But just remember, do your due diligence, go out there. It's on you. You're the transitioning service member and or spouse. So make sure you do your research before you transition out.
Absolutely. And advocate for yourself first and foremost. So thank you again, everyone that joined us today for our episode of Recruit Military Live. Thank you, Lamarr, for joining us and giving us all the wealth of knowledge that you had to offer. And we are excited to see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day.
All right.
Appreciate you, Lamarr. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.